love happens. And all the world is bright again, and now the sky is light again, and all the world is bright again. Is where we're living. Snow falls on this warm sky. Hilltops on this sunrise. Hold on to the smile. See behind your eyes. Sky is light again, and all the world is bright again, and all is where we're landing. So falls on this warm sky. Hilltops on this sunrise. All the world is bright again. Sky is light again, and all the world is bright again. Home is where we're loving. So tough, I think I've had enough until the weekend. Here come 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 the weekend.
Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the Woodturning Weekender online. It's the virtual weekender this year. We can't be online. We can't all be down in Maidstone, unfortunately, but we're going to try and have as much fun as we can on screen and keep everything going. Got a couple of great demos coming up for you later on, and just want to say thanks. It's great to have so many people out there already. That's absolutely wonderful. Really, really pleased to see you all, and thanks for all the chat and everything else that's been going on in there. It's been really good fun. Really have been enjoying myself. So great to see people from far and wide, and lots of people visiting us for, hopefully maybe for the first time even. So be introducing you to Stewart and Emma, our demonstrators, very, very soon. Be bringing them on screen. Probably they don't need a great deal of introduction, quite honestly. So you got Emma Cook, the tiny turner. Always difficult to find on YouTube because YouTube always wants to take me to the Tina Turner, which is really annoying. But great to have Emma with us this afternoon, and she'll be on at around about 3:30, demonstrating some turning, carving, and all sorts of different things. To be frank, I don't really know what anyone's demonstrating this afternoon. I've given them carte blanche to do whatever they want. But before that, we'll have Stewart Furini, hopefully no stranger to anyone out there, very, very active on YouTube. And sadly for Stewart, this was going to be his breakout year, getting out and about to lots of clubs and exhibitions. And of course, events have overtaken us. So that's not going to happen. So that's such a great shame. But yeah, it's your day will come, Stewart, I'm sure, and we're really happy to have you with us this afternoon. Now, just a couple of quick things to mention, just in case. So we're relying a lot on software that we have tested, we have tried, and we've had a great deal of success with. Been having a few problems with the slideshow, it keeps going blurry. I'm not quite sure why that would be, but we will be working on that later. And also, of course, we're relying on the internet. And just in case it all fails and goes horribly, horribly wrong, we do have some backup plans. We will be working hard in the background to put everything right. But remember, we're not the BBC. We don't have 30 or 40 technicians standing around just waiting to jump in and fix any problems that we have. Our working hard in the background is probably going to be pulling all the plugs out, waiting 15 seconds, and then try and reboot everything afterwards. So if the screen goes blank for more than 30 seconds, then just hop back to the Chestnut Products channel, and hopefully we'll be back on there as soon as we can. So do bear with us if that happens. And the other thing to mention, of course, is you will have a limited view of the turners this afternoon. You'll see everything that's going on, but you probably just see their hands, and depending on the camera angle, probably their feet as well. Just to be sure, they will be wearing all the correct PPE and safety equipment. They will be looking after themselves, and of course, I hope you will be too whenever you're doing any turning.
You haven't escaped the Northern invasion. We'll be back in 2021. We can't say exactly where or when, but we'll be back. Best be prepared.
So it's about time, and I clicked the wrong button there. I knew I was going to do that. It's time to bring on the demonstrators. So Emma and Stewart, I hope you come and join me on screen officially this time. It nearly worked.
Terry. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Stewart. Emma, how are you? How are you keeping?
Bad,
you well?
You. Yeah, not too bad. Blooming
Yeah,
warm.
feeling well. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's very warm, isn't it? It's absolutely sweltering here. I just had to close all the doors, otherwise there'd be birdsong and all sorts going on in the background, which would be a little bit awkward. I'm just waiting for the cat to come through the cat flap in a minute, and that's probably going to upset things, but we'll see. So, Emma, you've been keeping yourself busy the last couple of months by the look of things.
Very busy. Yeah, been doing lots of driving again, so back in the old wagon behind the wheel, and building up this really, doing the live streams, introducing myself to those, and been a bit poor on the pre-recorded and edited videos, unfortunately, but it's been completely taken over with the live streams. So for now, I'm quite happy with that, I suppose, because I like the interaction. So I'm really, really looking forward to today. It's right up my street, is this?
Excellent, because if you don't know, Emma, as well as being a wonderful turner, she also is an HGV driver, and if you haven't seen it, it's she's got a vlog on her YouTube channel, a week in the life of Tiny Turner, and well worth watching. Actually, there's I'm slowly disappearing off the screen here. I'm really aware of that. Sorry. It's well worth watching. There's lots of turning, lots of driving, and hedgehogs as well. So well worth watching. It's very well put together and great fun. Stewart, what have you been doing during lockdown to keep some shreds of sanity?
Well, shreds of sanity, just about. Yeah. Doing lessons for my students at school virtually hasn't been much fun at all, I have to say. Not nearly the same as being in a classroom with them. So that's been a bit frustrating, and a lot more computer time, but not fun computer time like this. So,
yeah,
reading work, marking work, lots of emails. But now we're on the summer holidays. So I had thought I'd get a lot more time in my shed turning, but it seems that hasn't worked out yet. But now we're in the summer holidays. Every day should see a bit of turning for sure.
All right, excellent. Yeah, well, I know you've been fairly busy with stuff, so I don't think you've been a slouch on it. So don't feel that. So we're not far off time for the demo. So Emma, if I let you go for now, and are you going to stay around to watch Stewart's demo though? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, and we'll have you back on screen about 3:30 for your demo, and we'll see you then. Thank you.
All
Cheers
right.
now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you soon.
So, Stewart, I'm back in the centre of the screen again. That's a bit better. You're heading off out. You were just saying about not getting as much turning done as you wanted to, but you're heading overseas soon, and I think you might need to quarantine when you come back. So that could give you a bit of time for a bit of turning and more videos, maybe.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping to get to visit my son, who's actually in Portugal at the moment. So fingers crossed I actually get there. But yes, 2 weeks quarantine. I'm looking forward to that very much. I've actually got a couple of interactive remote demos taking place during the quarantine period as well. So it's, a good way to spend the time. And I keep thinking I ought to rearrange my shed. So that might happen. I've got rather squashed into one corner of it with all this equipment around me, and I'm sure it could be laid out a bit better.
It's all those cameras, Stuart, and computers. I mean, I think I mentioned the BBC earlier. I think you're probably heading towards as many cameras as they've got. So you're definitely getting there.
Well, I've only got 5.
I had to get a camera especially for this. I didn't even have a camera before that. So, yeah, we've got there. All right, excellent, mate. Thank you very much. Great to have you with us this afternoon. I'll let you go and do your last few minute bits, and
Okay.
we'll catch up with you again in 2 or 3 minutes' time.
No problem.
See you then. Cheers.
Cheers.
Chestnut Products Woodturning Weekender 2, The Northern Invasion. How many titles does one event need?
Hello, welcome back again. So, yeah, we're going to get over to Stewart in a moment. Don't forget, after Stewart's demo, and before Emma comes on, we'll be having a Zoom chat. So you need to head over to Zoom for that. The links are in the chat, in the comments underneath here, so you should be able to see exactly where we're going, and you may well have been sent links already. Now, if you don't want to join us for Zoom, don't worry, it's not a problem. We'll have something going on. It might go a bit blurry again, I'm afraid, but we'll do what we can on that. So there will be something to watch in the meantime, but I'm really hoping you'll join us over there. It's an opportunity for us all to have a chat and get on with everything, and just try and replace some of the social side that's going to be missing from this year's Weekender. We had such a blast last year. It was huge fun. So, yeah, we're looking to try and recreate as much of that as we can. So, I think Stuart's all ready and raring to go again. So we'll just bring him back on screen. And hello, Stewart, once again.
Hello.
So, yeah, as has been mentioned in the chat, it falls to you the dubious honour to be the first one on at a Weekender again. How does that feel?
It's good. What I liked last year about being the first on was that I then had the whole of the weekend to enjoy without the performance anxieties of doing a demo. But of course, it happens twice this year, first today and first tomorrow. So I'll probably be feeling a lot more relaxed about 3 o'clock Sunday than I will 3 o'clock today, maybe. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and it's great to get the opportunity to actually do some demonstrating and do some turning, so that's great fun.
Yeah, excellent. All right, mate, well, that's brilliant. I will hand the screen over to you, let you take it away, and I'll see you again about 3 o'clock.
Great.
Thank you very much. Take it away. Thanks. Stewart.
Well, afternoon everyone. Thanks for coming along and watching me spray a lot of paint around in my workshop. As you can see, Terry was talking about protective equipment. I've got my my smock on now, and I will be wearing a mask, and later on when spraying, a respirator. So even if you don't see them, they are being worn. You might hear me the sound go a little bit funny because of that. I'm going today to do some work with the probably the iridescent paints, possibly some of the metallic ones as well. I haven't quite decided. I probably should have worked it out beforehand, but I'm going to do a platter today and tomorrow a bowl. So I'm going to start off with looking at how I go about making a platter and turning it. It's a 1 hour demo, so I have got a few Blue Peter moments where I've got some things that have been moved on a little bit further, because I don't want to fill any of the time really with sanding, but there may have to be a little bit as we get through the day. But what I'm going to start off with is a piece of beech. Normally I just mount the beech between centers and to give me more choice about what's going to be the top and what's going to be the bottom, but I've already decided that I'm going to make this the top. And I've marked where the center roughly is with a center finder, just a few lines that I've marked all the way around the circumference to give me a rough idea of where my center is, and it looks to be around about there. So I'm going to put a hole in there and hold it on a screw chuck today. Okay, so that's been drilled, and the screw chuck I'm going to use is an Axminster one that gets held in the Axminster C jaws. So we just get that put on. And it's quite a long screw on this screw chuck, so I'm going to put a little spacer in between the blank and the chuck. A bit of MDF, 6mm MDF. Could have drilled a bigger hole in it, but there we go. And let's get the blank on. Now I turn the back of my platters, most of them anyway, to an OG shape. Just going to make sure that's wound on tightly. Another turn there or so. There we go. And I'm going to bring up the tailstock as well, just for added security. You might notice, if I come in a little bit closer, there are a few thin cracks. One there, another couple here. I think they're just superficial, but it's always good to be on the safe side with turning bits of wood. So I'm going to have to make sure I've got the center brought up just to give me that extra peace of mind. Just tighten it in a little, and then a bit of turning. So check that the speed is down low. That's turning at about maybe about 600 or 700. Go down a little bit because there was a little bit of wobble. Okay, that's fine. So let's get the face shield on, and I'm going to just do quite some rough shaping to begin with my 3/8 bowl gouge. Right, my posh centre finder, someone was asking about, Martin, I think. I can't remember where I got this from, but it's a bit of a combination square set. I think it had a protractor bit and then a right angle bit for a square, and there's just this centre finder that just slides along in the groove on the back there, like adjustable combination squares. So if you look up adjustable combination squares, you might be able to find something like that. Okay, mask down, and just going to run across the face just to get a little bit of the waste removed. And the nice thing, if you're ever at a demo where someone is turning and they're doing this lovely pull cut, it means all the shavings come onto me and none onto the audience, which really doesn't matter at all in one of these virtual demos. Right, so I can see that crack is still there. It looks like it might go about 1/4 of an inch in, but I'm going to be turning this corner off in a while anyway, and that'll give me more of an idea. And in the initial stages, it's just more important to move the tool slowly, not be in any kind of rush. And I like to cut at this angle rather than running along the side here. If I go onto the overhead camera, rather than coming along and cutting at 90 degrees, I'd rather cut at an angle. So I'm slicing the wood more, because when it gets onto the end grain, it doesn't really cut very nicely. Not with the deep cut that I'm trying to do to rough shape this anyway. So I'm just going to reposition my tool rest and put it at a slight angle so that I can work across this edge a bit more and see how deep these splits go. I can see it's almost disappeared, so I think we're going to be all right. one of the reasons I like this grind, the long grind, it's not as long as some I've seen, is you can get great big thick shavings. It really does remove wood quickly, and it still cuts reasonably well. Always important to do that little test by spinning with your hand first. And I'm aiming to make sure I cut the whole of the face. Well, the edge rather, not the face. That's the face, isn't it? Because then I know that I'm in round, and it makes it easier to gauge how thick I want the rim to be. Right, so I've just checked, I've cut all the way around, almost a little bit here that's not been cut yet, but it's reasonably true, this blank. Sometimes they can be really rather wavy. Right, I'm going to come round to the other side now. I just want to establish the rim's depth, and by that all I mean is just a short cut across this face, just to make sure that I've got a true depth of rim here, so that I can judge it, because although it's fairly even, if some blanks you can end up with a rim of nearly ½ an inch, and then you get round a bit further it's barely ¼ of an inch. So it's just to give a little bit of evenness. And it also helps to neaten up that edge, because when I cut through this way, it's given some tear out on that edge. Now this blank isn't being kind to me today. There's another split there. Oh well, we'll work with that, because I'll be able to correct that later. This one's not going to a finished bowl today. Right, so I want to start thinking now about getting some shape on and getting a foot and a recess ready. So I think I can bring some speed up now, a bit more in balance. Swinging my hips, perhaps you can see it in that shot, to put a curve this way and convex curve, and then I'll be turning the other way with my body to put the concave curve in for the OG shape. And I'm just rough shaping it at the moment. I'm not really bothering too much about the finish, just to remove waste, and then I can tidy it up later. Get the tool rest a bit more firmly. Now I'm probably going to leave this rim a little bit thicker because of this split here. So that's looking reasonably right as the shape that I want. So now I'm going to come and address the foot. Now I turn a recess in my platters, and I leave that recess on because most of my platters end up being reworked 3, 4, 5, 6 times as I get another idea for what I'd like to do with regards to colouring and texturing. The splits are still here. I'm just going to use a parting tool just to put a little recess in there so I can see how deep they go. Face shield down. Have a look. Probably should sharpen my parting tool. They're still going a little bit deeper than I would like. I think I need to take away a bit more wood first. So back with the gouge and another full cut. Just roughly follow that shape round. Almost at the bottom, but it's a bit deeper there. I think I'll give it one more little go. It does pull off huge amounts of shading, doesn't it? Like a good Shirley Temple wig. Right, well, most of one has gone, but the other one is still there. So rather than spend all afternoon removing those splits, I'm going to have to just work with them for the demonstration purposes. Now, the recess that I use with an Axminster C jaws needs to be 69mm for the best fit, and that is currently 52mm, so I need another 17, so quite a way. I think let's put that up a little. I probably should have sharpened my parting tool. Now, I know I can mark it with some calipers, but I just get a bit lazy about doing that. So go to my ruler, and that is 68mm, which is perfect for now because I'm going to put a dovetail in there. And I then come and size my foot. Usually I go for something about that kind of size. And then what I want to do is make sure that that's slightly undercut. And then I can tidy up that dovetail and the center. So let's sort that out. So just a much gentler cut. Put that little undercut on the rim on the foot on. Just needs to go a little bit more. And that's probably enough, but I need to just give myself a bit more depth in that recess. Not a huge amount. Just enough for the jaws to go in, a couple of millimeters or so. Put that the wrong way. Right, so I need to make a bit of room in there for my chisel to go in to put the dovetail angle in. And bring the tool rest up. So it's cutting on centre. And then put the dovetail in. I've got 1 millimetre or so room. There we go. So that's what I would hold it in. Now, I don't know if you can see the crack is still there. Come in a little bit closer, I can come in. Can't quite see it. Now, obviously that would need to be sanded, and then I need to work on the outside shape a little more. Now, and then all of that needs to be sanded. What I'm looking at for the shape here is a smooth curve, which isn't at the moment, on this part, curving out and then curving back in. And then I want an angle on here. There's an angle there, and it's quite thick. That it's better to leave this on the thick side and work it from the other side, the other face, so that you don't end up with a rim that is too thin. So what I now need to do is to get this curve to start at the groove here, where that foot is, sitting on that outside edge there. So that's the next stage. Keep putting my tool rest too high or too low. That should be right. Let's see if I can get a bit more speed now. I've got a bit of a wobble on the lathe, but I can probably come past that. Okay, let's go. And I'm doing the cuts a bit more gently now. But I want that curve to be continuously smooth. Pick it up here, and then I'm going to swing my hips the other way. Put that curve in. Now, one of the things that you can have happen is you can get a flat on this part. It's very important, well, at least for me, that there isn't a flat, but that the curve continues all the way round. Now there's a bit of a sharp transition here. So for that fine shaping, you could use a scraper. You can carry on with your bowl gouge. You can drop the tool rest a little and take a finer cut to just blend that surface in. So we're seeing getting much finer shavings coming off now. Right, so there we are, there's our shape. The next thing, of course, would be to sand it. And I'm not going to do that because you haven't come here to watch a load of sanding. So going to take it off the screw chuck now. And I have one prepared. Now, for sanding, for the backs of my platters, I sand to 240 grit usually. Sometimes I go to 320. Ideally, I'd like to start with 180 grit, but particularly on the beach that I use a lot of, I often end up having to start at 120. Right, I keep hitting that camera with my face shield, which isn't great. Right, here we go. So this has been sanded to 240, and the reason I'm putting it back on the lathe is to show you the next stage, because it's a product that I use on all of my platters, and it's cut and polish, and it's a couple of waxes with abrasive paste in. If I'm feeling flush, I put it on with safety cloth, although I do often use just kitchen roll with it as well. Now, I saw Emma do a demo not so long ago where she managed to get at least 16 bits of safety cloth from one sheet. So I'm not sure I operate at her same levels of frugality, so I'll try a quarter sheet. Now, why I like this is that you don't have to put anything else on the wood. No sanding sealer needed, just wipe it on, give it a moment or two to go off. Now, I've actually sprayed the other side of this ready for a colouring technique, and you can see it's picking up some of that colour in the wax. But that's just another feature. You can work it right into that dovetail as well. What it's not so good at is if you put some texture on the back of your blank. Sometimes I put texture in here or on this side of the foot, and it's very hard then to get the grit in there. So just a brief, quick coating, and then it's a case of turning the lathe on and holding the cloth against it until it becomes clear. And you should be able to see the shine coming. Emma, am I made of money? Of course I am. I live in the rich south, where the streets are paved with gold and everyone's a millionaire. I'll probably wash it and use it again, Emma, if that makes you feel any better. But I've rather ruined it by getting overspray from the ebonizing lacquer. Right, I might have to go on to another sheet, or another quarter sheet. Turn the speed up. And I'm hoping you can pick up on camera the idea that it goes shiny where it wasn't shiny before. Tea bags. I don't use tea bags. I have loose leaf tea. In fact, I got so snobby with my refreshments, so I had to go and visit my mum the other day, and I thought, oh no, I hope she's not me a cup of tea or coffee, because I've got used to having real coffee and real tea in lockdown, giving myself proper luxuries. What we haven't spent on petrol, I've spent on English breakfast tea. Oh, bash into the camera again. Right, so that's now given a very nice, smooth finish. The final thing I like to do, because sometimes there's a little bit of grit I can still feel left there that hasn't been removed, is to use a white nye web. So white nye web, sort of burnishing it really, and then working it across. And although I think it's sold as non-abrasive, it certainly does make a difference. Right, now the other side, of course, then I would have to turn that and put a rim on. And I try to avoid making my rims flat. So I think they add more interest if they're not parallel with the surface. So this has got a slight incline, a slight curve, holding it where you can't see it. Let's put it on a different camera. So there's a slight curve here, and then it angles in slightly. And that's just had 2 coats of ebonizing lacquer put on. And they were put on this morning. Now the rim is needs a little bit of work, but I'll sort that out another time. Now I've got that recess which you saw me cut in the sample one, only a few millimeters deep, but it's plenty deep enough to hold if you've made it a reasonable size. Now that's running reasonably true. So come in a bit closer for you. So one of the other things I do, if you haven't done a lot of colouring and you're a bit worried about getting started and that kind of thing, is I always make the rim and cover a bit more than I actually want. That means that it gives me an area here where I can test out colour, or in here, or even right in the middle, because all of that will be turned away. And it also is helpful to have a bigger rim than you want to colour, because when you're putting things like lacquer on and you're impatient like me and you want to know if it's dry, if you touch it and it's not, you've left a print in it. But if you touch it here where you're going to cut it away, then there's no problem. Right, I'm just going to have to do a quick clean up to get rid of this dust. Now, I normally use spirit stains. Do a lot of colouring with the spirit stains because they don't seem to mind the dust nearly as much as paint does. So that's one of the reasons why I really like using them. Another reason is I love the colours. They're so vibrant and bright. So I'm going to put my vacuum on and just clear up the area around here, and then we'll get ready with some painting. Bit of dust actually on the blank itself, so let's get that off as well. Okay, put the mask up there out the way now. So what am I going to colour with? Well, one of the reasons I like using airbrushes is because you can get a lot of versatile techniques that you can use. These are the iridescent paints, and I decanted them into small airbrushes bottles. And the colour first to hand, oh, purple, that might please you, Sheila. Yes, I'll use some purple, honest. Other videos where I've been using airbrushes, I've used my cheap set, but these are slightly more expensive. This is obviously a gravity fed one. The colour goes in the top. Just have to clean it between each colour, which gets a little bit annoying. And this is a well, it's not an Iwata, it's a Neo for Iwata. So they're sort of sub Iwata level, but better than very, very cheap airbrushes. And this is an Ultra Harder and Steenbeck, but it's siphon fed, which I prefer, so I can use my colours in bottles. So I'm going to use the Harder and Steenbeck gravity fed one first, and I'm going to put some gloves on just to stop me getting completely covered in paint. And then the fun part begins. Now, I've got a range of stencils that I'm going to use, and they've all come from Amazon. There's some that sort of mimic a sort of camouflage effect. This one gets a lot of use, my crackle stencil. This one is a bit like a sort of acrylic paint pour with different size cells. So I'll be using certainly some of the smaller parts of that a little later. And there's another one, a new one here with larger cells. And I'm going to start off with that. I thought, who deserves to have the first outing of my new stencil? Well, it must be the Virtual Weekender. Never been used before. Now, I could take it off the lathe and spray on the bed, but I think you can get quite a good view of it from here, and it helps to be able to turn things around. Really notice the dust. Actually, it's me, I'm covered in dust and it's falling off me. Let me come over here and just quickly brush my arm. Right, hopefully that won't be too much of a problem. Right, so I'm going to put my compressor on, and I'm going to be using a very small portable compressor to begin with. These paints have had some reducer put into them as well, but not a huge amount. Maybe for that much paint, about 15 to 20 drops I did practice with them and they were running fine, but we'll have to see how they cope under real life conditions. So a quick connector, connect up. There's a little bleed hole that you need in the top of these for the paint to come out. I'm going to start off with the turquoise, give it a little shake, not quite the same as the rattle can dance, shake, and give it a little twist as it goes in. That helps to lock it into the airbrush. Now, whether we get all of this done in time, we'll have to see, but I'm going to start nearer the middle just so that I know the paint is coming out, and then I'm going to run it through those cells and move it. Now, it won't show enormously well until I've got a bit more colour on, but I'm concentrating on making sure that the stencil is flat against the wood. And one of the other things about doing colouring with an airbrush is that you can then use the air. So you've got 4 moves on an airbrush: down for air, back for colour, forward for no colour, and then up to turn off the air. So you can have just air coming out. So you can see I'm blowing around the paint there. So I can come over, and where I've put some paint, just put some air over it, just as a way of encouraging it to dry, because that's one of the other things. Of course, paint takes longer than stains to dry, which is another reason why I like using the stains. So yeah, I can see you're getting the effect of that in the pictures. That's good. For some reason my monitor keeps shutting off. Whether my computer's decided it's a bit too hot, I'm not sure. So I'm going to give that a few moments to dry. And one of the reasons I was a bit apprehensive about putting any reducer in the colour was whether it would affect the way it showed up, but it's looking quite strong. Rubber gloves, like most things in my workshop that probably aren't metal, they come from Amazon. I have contributed an awful lot to Amazon during lockdown. Now it's getting a little bit messy, so one of the other tips when you're working with stencils is to have a whole sheet, Emma, a whole sheet of kitchen roll available to, in fact I'm going to use 2 sheets, one for the top and one for the bottom, to dry the paint off the stencil, so that you're not moving it around. Now it's a little bit runny, the paint there. That's why, another reason why I didn't want to put too much reducer in it. I want it to stick where it's sprayed, so I've got to spray it a bit thinner. Even though it's a hot day, it doesn't want to be sprayed too thickly. So going thinner, which is not giving as much coverage, but it will allow us to build that coverage up. It's one of those have faith and get there in slow steps processes. Right, and then just some air just to give some of those a chance to dry off. Where it's gone a bit runny, that doesn't bother me either, really. It's going to be all taken over with the other colours when we get to them. Right, now the other thing, and the other reason I prefer to use my spirit stains is I have a bottle and an airbrush for each one, but each time, of course, you change the colour, you have to clean it out. Now these are water based, so you can use water, and I can put a bottle in, spray the water out until it's clean, and that cleans the inside of the airbrush, so that's coming out clean now. But what it hasn't cleaned is this little hole here where the airbrush goes in, so you need to give that a little wipe, and use a little cotton bud just to clean the excess paint out from there. hold that up so you can see what I'm doing. And then we'll move on to the next colour, which will be purple. And I'm going to pull off the bit of masking tape, put the bottle in with a little twist that locks it in, and go to a slightly smaller template. And I think I'm going to work on this area around here where it's not so wet, and make sure I'm putting the colour on in thin coats. Yeah, and that's reacting very nicely with the blue. It's quite a subtle colour at the moment because of having to do it in thin coats, but it will build up. So I think it's probably a bit ambitious in the time to try and work on the whole rim. So I'll probably just concentrate on this part, and then just some air, give that a chance to dry off. Okay, change colour. That's going to be the irritating part of using this airbrush. I pull the bottle out. There's still a bit of colour left in there. If I'm careful, I can probably get a bit more of it out rather than just wasting it. Yeah, and then clean out the centre of the airbrush, and then my water, spray until it's clean. Purple's taking a bit longer to be clean, but I'm going to be blending these colours anyway, so that's not too much of a problem. There's a lot of purple left in here. Right, coming on to a different blue this time. Again, just shake the bottle a little, make sure the paint is well mixed, and going to come in a bit closer for you so you can see what's going on in the rim, although it is a bit dark. Hopefully as we build up the colour it will start to show a bit more. Now this one, yeah, there we go. It's taking a bit of time to come out, but it is now coming out. Now that's showing much more clearly. Want to go on to a bit of green now, just conscious of time. Whether I should, while I've got the blue, maybe I'll work around and do a bit more just to get value for money from it, even though it's still a bit wet around there with those first coats. But this is actually showing very nicely on the black. Right, and take that out, and back to my other stencil, just a bit more, using up what paint is left in there. I do have a finished example to show you with some lacquer on as well, but we're getting there. You can see that now, I hope, building up. I might have to do something dramatically bold, like put some bright yellow on. I don't know, I better check the Sheila first. I can't see all of the comments for some reason on my screen, so Sheila, you've got a few minutes to tell me if yellow is going to be a mistake or not. But before we get to that, I think I'll do a little bit of green, sort of doing mother of pearl colours. It's a bit more subtle perhaps than some of the other techniques that you may have seen me use before, but give the bottle a little shake. And I want to use this to pick out some of the smaller areas. So I'm going to use this part of the stencil. Just wait till the colours come in. Okay. Right, so that's really picked up. That's very nice. Very nice look. I'm going to take that airline off and give you a better view of this. With which camera should we go on the overhead camera? Okay, so now the thing is, I haven't obviously done the whole rim yet, but here we've got purple, we've got the green and the blues mixing together very nicely, and you can see that shimmer as I move it into the light and out of the light. So like I say, it's a bit more subtle than some of the things that you may have seen me do before, but I'm hoping to correct that in the last few minutes of the demo. That obviously would need, I would want to work around the whole rim. I wasn't quite brave enough for yellow, but I will on the next bit. So when that's dried, I would then put lacquer on it, and I use gloss lacquer, and I just happen to have one that is finished. With gloss lacquer, and the lacquer really helps to brighten the colors, bring more light onto the finish, and makes a much more attractive look. If I can balance the two in my hands, so unlacquered against lacquered, you can see the shine really helps to bring those colors much more vibrancy, and the colors on the lacquered piece are the same I've used here, the two blues, green and purple. So you can never really get a whole project finished when you've got lacquer involved, but what I will do is get some lacquering done on this overnight after it's had a chance to dry, and let you have a look at that tomorrow as well, and hopefully I may not have time to bring it to quite the finish of this one, but you see how that really brings everything to life. Now, in a little bit of anticipation for tomorrow, I've got another prepared blank here, which I'm going to put some colour on. The difference with this one, as you can see, is I've put a lot of texture on it. The texture, and we'll be doing some more on texture tomorrow, has been put on with my Proxon mini grinder with an Arbortech 50mm saw blade, and I've just did all the texture running parallel with the grain, partly because I've never done one like that before. I wanted to see what it looked like, but also to have a go at perhaps being a bit bolder with the colors. A lot of you will have seen, no doubt, the lovely cosmic cloud bowl that Gary Lowe makes, and that's widely emulated. So I want to do something a bit different, so that's why I've been using the stencils. But I'm going to now just let my inner child take over and throw things to the wind by spraying in the middle to begin with. Just going to go wild and try to create the same colors but on a bit of texture in 10 minutes. So I'm not being, hang on, I've completely forgotten to put my mask on. So the sound will be a little bit muffled. Even though it's acrylic, it's much better to have mask on. I hope you can still hear me. So there's the green. I'm not going to do this to any sort of predetermined pattern, just as it strikes me. So take the paint out and I'll spray till I've used all of the colour up. There's quite a lot left in the brush. Right, run out now. Just going to give it a little bit of a rinse through. But as the colours are being blended, I'm not too bothered. Although there will be some cross-contamination if I leave a lot of colour in the airbrush. That's looking all right for now. So go on to one of the blues. And let's see so that you can actually see what it looks like. So blue now. Not coming through yet. Let's do it on a bit of paper. At the bottom, here we go. Here it's coming. Now, I did that parallel with the grain and with the texture. I'm going to do this at a slightly different angle. So you can see the general action. I'm going to bring you in closer. I think this is the close view. Again, because of the iridescence of the colours, you won't see it to best effect until I position it more in the light. Right, I think that's enough of that one. Again, take the bottle out and just use what paint is left. Clean out the hole. Of course, much more fun having an airbrush for each colour. The thing is, these ones have cost a bit more than my cheap ones. Blast a bit of water through. And just so Sheila's happy, we're going to purple next. So turn it round, slightly different angle. Wait till the colour is coming out rather than the water. Here we go. Okay, that's enough of that one. Let's use up what's left in the brush. How are we doing for time? All 5 minutes or so left. Quite a lot of colour left in this one. Clean out the airbrush with a quick wipe. And water. Now, if this was needing a solvent, I wouldn't be brushing it into a cloth on my hands, but I would be putting it through a filter, a little cleaning jar, which I'll show you later. Okay, that's good. Green. Okay, it's gone to green now. And take the paint out, clean the hole, finish what's left in the brush. Okay, now I'm going to go back with the turquoise after I just put some water through the brush. And I'm going to do the turquoise. Texture is now running up and down. I'm going to do it from just one side at a shallow angle. Running that across so it's catching just one side of the texture. And that helps to put almost like a sort of shadow effect on. It has gone over the top of some ridges, which also looks quite attractive. But I would say that, wouldn't I? Right, back to the shallow angle, use what's left. And water, just to clean the brush out a little. You can tell I'm rushing, can't you? But of course you would have the luxury of time in your workshop. You wouldn't have to do this at such breakneck speed. Now, Sheila, you're not here. You're not telling me, no, don't do anything with yellow. So this could be a mistake. And if it is, I accept full responsibility. Right, let's get some colour coming through. There we go. So we've got yellow coming out now. Going to turn it 180 degrees and just use this just to clip across the top. Okay, that's enough for now, but I do need to clear my airbrush out when we finish. But let's get that off the lathe. Before we do that, put my earpiece back in, which I always manage to get to fall out at some point. Now, again, I'll show you this tomorrow, but it always is improved once the center is turned out as well, and you see the contrast between the color and the wood. But that should be giving quite a nice shimmery kind of look, and it should change depending upon the angle that you're looking at it from. So from one side you'll see more of the yellow, from another side more of the blue. And I think what I might do off camera is, I think it needs a little bit more purple. Do you know what? I'm not going to do that off camera. I'm going to do it now, and then that will take us up to 3 o'clock. So purple, take out that one, get my airbrush back, get all the yellow out, clean out a bit of water. I'm sure you could get into a nice sort of meditative, contemplative mode of working with this. Right, so here we go. Get rid of that water, come back to the purple, spray into the cloth till I'm getting colour, and then I'm really giving you kittens with my use of safety cloth and kitchen roll, Emma. My apologies. Right, now it is very important that you clean your brushes out straight away. I've got a couple of cheap ones that I didn't clean out straight away, and I had to strip them down to clean them out properly. So I'm not, if I even leave this for a few minutes, the paint will dry inside it, and that isn't going to be great. So let's see, I've got an old bit of safety cloth here that I can spray on. You see there's still paint in there, even though it looked like it was clean. So this is the final bit with this airbrush. Come back to the water bottle. So I want to make sure that I haven't got any colour left in there. I'm cleaning them with water at the moment, but I will put, yeah, that's clear now. I will put some airbrush cleaner in there in a moment, probably while we're switching over to the Zoom part of the afternoon. Right, so now that purple's on, it was just a bit too flat without the purple, I think. I'm hoping, yeah, that gives much more definition and depth and wowness. I know in some parts you're not quite getting the colour because of the lighting in here, but again, when I've got some lacquer on that and you're looking at it fully, I'll get some better pictures posted online on the Conkers group. But where I'm looking now across here, I can see it's a very ripply gold, green and purple surface. I'm trying to get an angle for you on that, but without much success. Okay, so that is all looking at 3 o'clock by my computer, so that's a good time to stop. So I'll go back to the studio with Terry, and thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you on the Zoom bit for some chat there.
Excellent. Stuart, thank you very much indeed. And perfect timing. How did you manage that? I mean, I'm just sitting here watching, grabbing a drink now and then, and yeah, you hit that right on the dot. I'm very, very impressed. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. So yeah, excellent. That I know you couldn't see all the comments that were coming in, but that was very, very well received. Lots of interest, and actually for quite a long time the comments went very quiet, and I'm going to take that as a really good sign. Everyone was just engrossed in what you were doing. Either that or they were just holding their hands up in horror at what you were doing and couldn't get at the keyboard. But I'm going to guess that it was all good. So absolutely fantastic, mate. Thank you very much indeed for that. So if you're happy, we'll zip over onto Zoom. I really didn't mean to say that. Sorry. We'll go over to Zoom and we'll have a little a Q&A session. So if I'll take you off the stream, mate. Thank you very much. I'll let you switch your cameras over. I've got to try and work out how to do it myself, and we'll see you over there. Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, no problem. I'll see you there in a few minutes.
Thank you. So as you can see, the Zoom password is now up on screen, and if you want to come over and join us on Zoom, that'll be fantastic. We're just trying to make it as social as we can. Now, what we're going to suggest is keep the YouTube window open. We will be coming back here after the Q&A session, and if you want to, mute the YouTube channel, because there will be something going on here for people who aren't coming over to Zoom. And if you're not coming over to Zoom, we've got a video for you. We've got something to keep you entertained. You've got a chance to go and grab a drink or whatever, and then the video will play. Now, sadly, going to be over on Zoom. I'm not going to be able to come over and just keep an eye on it and make sure it's running properly. And we have had a few problems with the slideshow stuff, but hopefully it's going to behave itself and you'll get the full effect from it. Now, when you get over onto Zoom, then what you'll get is you'll go into the waiting room. Please remember, we need your proper full name before we can admit you into the waiting room, and then we'll let you in before we can take you from the waiting room into the main meeting. Sorry, get my words right. And then once you're in, everyone will be muted because it's going to be chaos otherwise. We've got 180 of you out there, which is really wonderful. We've already got a few people in the Zoom room already, and so once you get in there, you'll be muted. If you'd like to ask a question, we can ask you to raise your hand, please, electronically. Don't sit there and put your hand up. It's not going to work. We won't be able to see you, but there'll be a button to let you raise your hand. We will ask you to unmute so you can ask the question, and from there you can ask the question, then we'll mute you again afterwards, and Stewart or whoever will answer the question for you. If you don't want to come on camera to ask the question, absolutely fine. Just type it in the comments section and we will ask it on your behalf. So I hope to see you over there in a couple of minutes, and I'm just going to go and transfer across. I'm going to leave the Zoom password up for a little bit longer. We've done this obviously to try and avoid getting people come and join us who we don't want to come and join us. So see you in Zoom in a couple of minutes, and we'll see you back here on YouTube for Emma Cook at 3:30. Thanks very much.
Hi there, Andy Rathwaite, Woodturner. Seeing as we can't make it down to the Northern Invasion this year due to the COVID, I thought you might like a little demonstration on how I copy spindles for one of my customers. Oh, and by the way, please excuse the COVID-19 non-haircut. Right, so then, here we have a blank ready for copying that. This is typically the work I get. So first things first, I need to mark out the blank for where the square ends, these bits, start and stop. Now I've already put pencil line on here, but what I need to do, because this is a square edge, I need to scribe the edges of the timber so it doesn't flare when I cut it. So I have a safety razor blade and a square, keeping my fingers well out of the way. I'm just going to cut the surface fibres on the timber so that it doesn't flail out. It does help when I get it on square. Oh, that's those at that end done. Now we need to put the pattern on and mark exactly where the other end is. And do the same process again. Keeping my fingers well out of the way. Put the razor blade out of the way. Now we have that done, we'll move the pattern to somewhere where I can see it, so I can keep glancing at it while I'm working. And we'll move the tool rest into position to start. Before I do that, I'm going to put a second pencil line on these square faces. This will help me find out when I've got just around, because the pencil line will disappear. What you can't see is I've already donned my safety wear, my safety glasses. So I'll set the tool rest up, making sure it's parallel to the bed, not to the piece of work. Oops. And now we can start. So the first tool I'm going to use is an 8th parting tool to make a 3/8 wide flat area for my turning. Now I can see where the pencil line is, so I approach it cautiously right up to my scribe line, in and up. And that is perfectly round inside there. So I change tool now to a 3/4 roughing gouge, and I can make the rest of it into a cylinder. I rub the tool on the timber with the back of the tool to make sure there are no flat spots. If there are flat spots, it makes a noise. Saves me having to stop the lathe. Now I move the tool rest up and repeat the procedure at this end. So parting tool first. Three whips with the parting tool. and then roughing out gouge again. I have a little bit of a flat area there, so I need to take a little more. And now we can start to copy our marks, our datums from our pattern. So we're marking edges. And wherever there's a step for a bead or a cove, I mark that in full because it gives me a better vision. And what I am going to do is just put a gentle mark there as a centre line for that bead. So put the pattern back where I can see it, so I can glance at it at all times. Bring my tool rest back to this end because I try to work from tailstock to headstock. And this is the top of the spindle. So now we need to transfer these little marks into lines. Very simple, just hold the pencil still and rotate the piece. Obviously I'm not moving the rest just to do pencil lines, I'll do those when I get up there. So skew chisel first to reinforce these lines to keep crisp edges while we're cutting. So the first one, to show that obviously I can't get to those just yet. So we go revert back to our parting tool to take those shoulders out, and I've set my calipers to match the original. It's much easier doing the second one because you've got the first one as a guide. Now we're going to use a spindle roughing out gouge to start our shape. I'm glancing at the original to make sure I'm going to make the right cut first. And again, glance at the original. Right, happy with that. Now the next section involves scooping out a flat piece. To a preset, again, diameter, different pair of calipers. Now what I'm going to do now is use my spindle gouge as almost as a skew chisel, just to remove material quickly and save me having to pick another tool up. Right, reverse back to our shaping. There we go, just a fit. And now for the shape that comes on this end. We put it in a tidy. After all, it's supposed to be a parallel piece. So we'll mark a centre line. We'll mark a centre line and form a bead with our spindle gouge. Nice and gently. Stop the lathe before we move anything. Have a look. We know we've got some sanding to do. What we'll do is we'll just compare what we've made and what we've copied. Everything seems okay. So move the tool rest up. Now at this point, I'm going to put the tool rest at a slight angle because the next piece of the piece is tapered. So if I angle the tool rest, it makes my life easier. So about half an inch into the bottom of there and about half an inch at the other end, and we're set up. But before we can do the taper, we need to mark this end out. So we need to redo our circles, our markings from marks to circles to make them easy to see. That's only centre line, we don't need to do anything with that one. That is another shoulder, so we do that one. So, skew chisel to mark those out. So we've got nice crisp edges. And then parting tool again to get them to the same depth. Quick check. No, not yet. Perfect. Now the end back here, this end, we need to make one more parting cut. Approximately 2 millimeters deeper than the original cove cut. And now we can start to chamfer this piece. So again, I'm going to use my spindle gouge using the wing to cut, because if I use my finger as a depth stop, you can see how the tool gets close to the work because it's angled. So we will start just very short. And just keep increasing. Increasing the depth of the cut every time. And as I'm making this cut, you should be able to see the edge of the tool rest become visible as I'm taking material away. There's a little bit to do with the point where there, like so, and that's our taper. Before we move the tool rest or anything, the next piece, glancing at the pattern, is a 3/8 rounding off, 3/8 of an inch, 10mm. To there, and the next stage is a cove. So we need to remove the excess material here. And we can still see the original lines from our shoulders, so we start to cut our cove. Cove complete, we now move on again. look at, glance at the pattern. This is 1/4 inch rounding off. Like so. And the same at this end. And finally, before I move the tool rest, I need to make a bead just there, where that faint line is. So that's my centre line. That's one side of the bead. And that's the other side. Look a little tidying up. So stop the lathe before we move the tool rest. And move the tool rest up, this time parallel to the workpiece. And again, now we have to glance at our pattern. And we have another cove with one shoulder only. So we can remove some material. Start our cove. Now we can see the line where our shoulder should be, so we start at the other side of the cove there. And finally, before we sand it, we just need to round 3/8 of an inch rounding off on this corner. And we stop the lathe. Right, so we can remove the tool rest out of the way and do a little sanding now. 120 grit and 180 is sufficient because this is going to be French polished. So we'll start the 120. I'm only going to do lightly. I did turn my dust extraction on. That's the noise you can hear in the background. Not going to touch that bead just yet. Likewise, I'm not going to touch that cove. Just take the spurry bits off there. So we'll go down to the 180 grit. And we sand the flat there. And well, we sand everything. And there we have the finished 12 spindles with the original pattern and the 4 tools used. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this little video. Good night.
Hi Emma, can you hear me? And I've got this muted, so of course that's not going to work either.
Yeah,
so
there we go. There we go.
I knew if it was going to fall down anywhere, it was going to be when we tried to go across to Zoom, and that was exactly what has happened. So bear with me a second.
No worries.
So I can get this working again. There we are. Ah, right. I can hear you. Can you hear me, Emma?
Yes, I can.
All right, brilliant. So yeah, the transition trying to get Zoom working. I think I've lost my camera. I can see it, just unfortunately the computer can't. But that doesn't matter because all we need to be able to do is talk at the moment. No one needs to see me. So hopefully we've got
live, Terry.
Say again.
We are live.
Yeah, we are definitely live. Yeah, we are on screen.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, for heaven's sake, we're on screen. Don't do anything bad. So yeah. So folks, I'm sorry you can't see me at the moment. So the computer's lost the camera somewhere. I'm not sure what it's done with it. And yeah, apologies for that. Apologies to everyone who had trouble getting into Zoom. I couldn't get in there either, for what that's worth. So yeah, it made it just a bit more challenging. So anyway, it doesn't matter. We've got Emma on screen. That's the main thing. That's what you're really here to see. No one needs to see me, so that's absolutely fine. So Emma, how are you doing? Are you ready?
All right.
Excellent.
This big T-shirt's actually all right because it's nice and airy. So good choice.
You said it kind of fitted you a bit like a dress, but that looks fine on you actually. And don't forget,
I've bunched it up at the side, so you can't see on the camera, but it's all bunched up.
Yes, indeed. Well, don't forget, everyone, they are available to buy from the Woodturning Weekender website. So just going to sneak a little plug in there. A quick thank you to Paul and Mel for taking over in the Zoom for me when I just could not get in there. So thanks for looking after everything, and absolutely perfect. And yeah, a bit of a thumbs up there. So Emma, it's great to have you on a weekender. I'm sorry we can't give you the full weekender experience this time around, but hopefully we'll be back down in Kent next year, and you'll be with us then, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely plan to be. Yeah, really looking forward to it. I was gutted that I missed out last year, but it was one of those things. So it's nice to be here for this weekend, the virtual one. But yeah, definitely looking forward to meeting everybody next year properly. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's hope so. It's great to have you here. Thank you very much indeed. So if you're ready to roll, I'll take up no more of your valuable time. We're going to go away and try and sort out what we're going to do about the Q&A afterwards. It beats me at the moment, but we will sort that out. So I'll hand everything over to you, Emma, and we will catch up with you later.
Brilliant.
Take it away.
Right. Thank you very much. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Yorkshire Day. It's Yorkshire Day today. What a perfect day to be streaming, really. Please bear with me because I've just got to change my headset over to my phone. So I'll just be 2 seconds while I do that. Let's pop that on there. Fabulous. Right, okay, we're ready to rock and roll. So today I'm going to be doing a tiny little box. Well, it's not that tiny actually. I'm going to be doing a little box with a little finial. So because Stewart's done quite a bit of colouring and he's colouring tomorrow, I'm basically going to do some of the more natural finishes. You guys know me, I like to do some of the natural things. So this is what we're doing. Now, the biggest challenge today for me is to do a demonstration in an hour. So I suppose I should get cracking. So first things first, I am on my own today, so you'll have to bear with me for camera changes, etc. We've got 3 camera views. Hopefully you can still hear me when I put this on. There we go. And first off, I've got a piece of sycamore on the lathe, which is 3-inch square by about 4 inches long, 4 1/4 inches long. So we're going to rough that out with our spindle roughing gouge. We're going to keep the speed quite high, so we're actually starting about 2000 RPM. our acorn earrings today, rubber dog. I actually lost one, which I'm devastated about. One of them actually, because they were tiny little boxes, one of them unscrewed itself, and the bottom part of it dropped off, and I think it was in the workshop, so I have a horrible feeling it's in the vacuum. There we go. So that's just about rounded off. So we're going to put a spigot on each end using a beading parting tool. Move that tool resting a little bit first. I can't, the chin strap's under, it's under Sheila, it's a little bit too big for me. It should be told. I should really have be doing this whole demonstration in Yorkshire, to be fair, with it being Yorkshire Day, but I didn't have time to prepare subtitles, so they'll have to make do we are. So we've got a 1/4 inch spigot on each end, and we're going to go straight into the jaws of the chuck. These are the C jaws on the Axminster, and we're going to remove the body of the box. Whenever I make boxes, ideally I leave whichever end is going to, or whichever side or top or bottom, whichever is going to have the spigot in the lathe, and in this instance it's going to be the lid. So I'm going to part the base of the box off first so that we can cut the spigot, and then that's ready to make it into a jam chuck afterwards. So I'm going to use a straight edge parting chisel, and I'm just making one cut and then a bit of a relief cut. No, you're all right, Sheila. I appreciate the concern. Now I'm turning this down to about 1/4 inch or so, and then because it's unsupported, I'm just going to break the remaining bit holding these together just by twisting them apart, and this leaves us with the base of the lid. So first thing we need to do is to tidy this up. So you can either use a ball gouge or a spindle gouge for this. It really doesn't matter at all. And I'm just starting to make it slightly concave towards the centre, because when I've cut the spigot on this, I'm not going to hollow it out too much at all. So I'm just making that initial cut, and then I'm going to go in at the side with a straight edge parting tool to basically start to cut the locating spigot, which is what these going to locate from the lid into the base. Now, whenever you're making a box, you need to try and stay within the parameters of your chuck. So don't turn your spigot too small, because the smaller you turn the spigot, the smaller the recess has got to be for the spigot, and we want to be able to hold this on expansion basically. So I've just turned that, and I've roughly to about quite a small size, but small enough so it still should fit in the jaws. I am terrible for not measuring things, guys. Anybody that's seen me demo in real life or live on YouTube will know that I am a bit of a bugger for measuring. I tend to guess. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that should be ample for us to get the the jaws in the recess that we're cutting to fit that. So I'm going to hollow this a tiny bit. We're not going to go too far because we are going to cut a little bit of a locating hole in the top of this box, and we don't want to cut it all the way through and end up meeting the underside of the box. So I'm going to just keep that just a slightly concave, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of a pattern in there, and then we'll give that a super quick sand. In fact, actually, before we do, I want this box to have, if I hold that up there, a little bit of a curve up where the base and the lid actually meet. So I do want a little bit of a curve on there. This isn't actually quite enough. You need to be able to give it a bit of a curve so you can actually open it, because that's a bit difficult to open at the moment. So before I sand that, I'm going to take my spindle gouge, and I'm just going to round this off ever so slightly. There we go. That should do us. And now I can sand. So I'm going to only do a couple of grits. I'm going to do some 180 and 240. I'm just going to put my extraction on. And then I'm going to go straight in there after I've done the 240 with the cut and polish, which anybody again who's been watching me for the last few years will know that that is one of my absolute favourite products, because I absolutely hate sanding and having all this machinery on, etc. So 180 to 240, stop the lathe, turn that off so I can hear myself think, and then oh, okay, right, yes, I will show you that, definitely, thank you. I have Mandy in my ear being very helpful, being my earworm today, so it's quite nice, is this actually, instead of trying to watch the chat all the time, so thanks, Mandy. So I'll go on to that in a second. Cut and polish, we put that on without the lathe moving. This is with an 1/8 of a cloth, Stewart, all right, so this is still quite extravagant for me, but seeing as you were using a 1/4, and seeing as Mel told me off because it's impacting on chestnut sales is my Yorkshire tightness, then I thought, right, I'll use an 1/8. I'll compromise. Although you might have noticed it had already been used once, all you eagle-eyed lot. So once that's been applied, we will then work that into the grain, and then as it buffs to a finish, then we can think about applying a top coat. So I'm going to use some, this is Chestnut's microcrystalline wax stick. Again, I use this a lot. So we put that on with the lathe running, and because it's in stick form, it's ready to buff, so you don't have to wait like you do with the same product in the tin. And that is the underside of our lid done and dusted. So we'll take this out of the lathe, and we will put our base section in, and I will show you the asymmetrical grind on my ball gouge, because I'm going to be picking that tool up straight away. So quick spin, make sure that that's trued up, put the lid somewhere safe that you're not going to lose it even. So the grind on my chisel, this is the grind. Now normally I apologise because you'd have Roy here to zoom in, but he's not unfortunately well enough today. but I hope that you can still see. On one side we've got a very short bevel, and that runs all the way around the back, so it's like a traditional grind. But then one side's elongated, and it's not because I'm really bad at sharpening. I sharpen freehand because I particularly like this grind, and you've kind of got two chisels in one with this. The short grind is a very supported cut, so the cutting edge isn't going to get blunt quite as quickly because there's a lot of metal behind it, stopping it from fracturing as quickly. But this long grind, like Stewart was using on his platter with the drawn back wing, you can turn the chisel over and you can open up this entire cutting edge. So instead of only cutting with this top edge here, which is like 2 or 3 mil, you roll that over and you've got about 10 mil that you can really tear the wood out. Or if you close the flute completely and remove the bevel, you can actually use it for scraping. So you get 1 or 2 different cuts there. Looks like everybody's misbehaving. Who's been put on naughty step now? John's already been on the naughty step. I'm not making a mushroom. I will never make a mushroom again. Well, I might. So I just want to make sure that I've got the tear out from parting off cut away. So we'll just have a quick stop and check. Yes, we have. And all I'm doing now is I'm trying to round this off a similar amount so it will match the lid. So you kind of have a very similar curve between the two. So it should, I'm hoping it mirrors each other. That's the plan anyway. Whether that's successful or not, I don't quite know. So we need to make a jam chuck now, and for that I'm going to employ my straight edge parting chisel again. I'm going to go straight in at the front. If I go to the overhead camera, you might get a bit of a better shot. The overhead camera isn't working, so I won't. So I'm just going to have a look, and oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to remove the remainder of that centre part. So that we've actually got room to try the fit of the lid. I'll go on to the front for a minute because I'm going to be standing in the way. And basically, I'm just lining up the spigot with the recess. So I'm holding that onto the bottom area of the recess and just closing it up to see how much I've got to take off, which is about 1/8 of an inch. So go back with the parting chisel. And don't forget, it's not 1/8 of an inch that we're taking off from in one cut, it's 1/8 of an inch overall, so you're looking at 1/16 that you're taking off. And we'll stop and try that again. A little bit more. When it gets to this sort of level, when it's less than 1/16 of an inch, I tend to try and scrape with the chisel. So I'm using this edge of the chisel to actually just pull towards me in the recess, and that just takes off a little bit. I know I'm making a mess of the t-shirt. Well, we're really nearly there. So take another cut. Try again. Right, that is a good enough fit for a jam chuck. So I will knock that on. Hang on a minute, why ain't that going on properly? Not quite there. Now the danger that I have now is because I've had to take that tiny little cut, I'd stepped it ever so slightly and it was binding on that step. And now I've done that, it might not jam very well. It may come off. So, yeah, that's not the best of fits. So now I'll bring the tailstock up. Yes, tech support has arrived and is in trouble for arriving as well. Yeah. So I'm going to shape as much as I can as so with the tailstock support up. And I'm kind of going for a bit of an OG shape. I'm trying to be careful not to make this area too thin because that's what we're going to be opening the box with. So you want a little bit of support there. Domestic live on YouTube. It wouldn't be the first one. Got to give you some excitement. Now, if I had been smart, I'd have changed centres. That would have been the clever idea, to have gone with a ring centre or the cone centre from Axminster, which is fantastic because you can get in really close to your work. At the moment, I'm just kind of trying to dig around the steb centre, which doesn't always end well if you end up turning into the teeth. So I want to get as much done as I can with the centre up, holding this lid on, because I've made the worst jam chuck in the history of the world, actually. It's terrible, and I should be ashamed. So, I can make that thinner. Let's make that thinner. Parting chisel. Got it. So I've basically got a tiny little bit of a spigot in there holding this on. But that'll allow me to sand the top of this. So I'll give that a quick sand. And what I'll do with the base is we'll turn it, but I won't sand it. I might sand the inside, but that'll be it. Because I want to move on then to the finial. I suppose it's kind of mushroom shaped, is this top actually. I have to admit it's got a mushroomy look. Everybody's very happy to see you, Casper. Casper is on the naughty step, you are right, mate. Oh. So 180, 240. Oh no, 120, 180, 240 actually. I didn't think that I'd picked up the 240 properly. And then we'll take this away and we'll see what we can get away with here. Now I'm just going to break away that excess so that I'm not trying to turn that with the chisel. And we'll see how this holds in relation to the jam chuck and see if that works or not. I am expecting it to come off. So I'm just going to take very gentle coats. I'm not cutting a lot of timber, not applying a lot of force, so hopefully it might just have enough of a grip to hold it. So let me blend this cut around. And again, it'll just need a little bit of sanding to tidy that up. And then if you wish, for the area that's joining the where the lid is going to join onto the finial, you can use a drill bit to hollow it out, or if you wish, you can use your parting chisel. For a time, I'm just going to use my parting chisel. So that will save me from having to swap over to the Jacob's chuck. But before I do that, then we're going to just put a little bit of foot polish on there.